Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Alienware M17 R2. This is the 2019 version, and this is a review of a 17.3-inch screened gaming laptop from Alienware. I'm going to slightly compare it with the Alienware M15 that I used before, because that was a fantastic bit of kit that I was really blown away by. Before I get started, I just wanted to note that this is the sort of mid-range model. It'll cost around $2,500, and it comes with an Intel Core i7-9750H CPU, 16GB of 2666 MHz RAM, NVIDIA RTX 2080 Max-Q GPU, and a 256 PCIe NVMe SSD. It also has very similar styling to the Alienware M15, and you'll notice available in the same colours as well. This is the black variant. I really like the lunar one, the white one, much nicer looking. However, this black one is still very nice. It has that really cool honeycomb venting on the rear. It has RGB lighting on the Alienware logo on the back as well as around the edges. It has per key illumination on the keyboard, and obviously it has that larger screen. It is worth noting that the M17 is only available with 1080p variants on the screen, and this one has a 1080p 60Hz refresh rate screen, which is fairly disappointing. As I said, NVMe boot drive though, so when you press the Alienware little head there, it boots into Windows fairly quickly. The size of the drive is pretty tiny though on this model. Obviously you can pay out for more. There are various specification options, and I'll include the specs for this one and a link to where you can see all the others in the description so you can get an idea of what the setups are potentially. But for me, I felt like 256GB NVMe drive is going to fill up really quickly. It's far too easy to fill that up. I mean, if you think about the latest Call of Duty game, the download for that with the Battle Royale was 138 gigs, so you basically nearly filled the drive up with one game. So I think if you are thinking about buying this, I'd recommend paying out for the extra setups, and you can get up to 2 terabytes worth of NVMe in RAID as well, so that's worth considering. However, the device does highlight in a number of other areas. For example, it has multiple USB ports on the left and right hand side. You also have an Ethernet port for plugging in, going for a wired connection. I'll show you, I use that a bit later on. It has a very nice design to it. The venting and cooling system on it is really well designed. The vents at the rear is where the hot air gets blown out, so it doesn't blow onto your lap. It doesn't get overly hot, and it doesn't get overly noisy, which is a definite benefit to this system, and something that I really enjoyed about it. I often find that these thin gaming laptops get very loud and obnoxiously loud during gaming sessions, especially when it's under a lot of pressure, when it's playing games on high visuals, and they end up getting too noisy and too hot. This one doesn't suffer from that issue. The keyboard doesn't get too hot, it certainly doesn't get too loud. The venting at the rear, perhaps on the top, but the front by the keyboard kind of gets warm, but you don't really put your hands there anyway, so it's not necessarily a problem. You can game with it on your lap. I have done that, although it is preferable to have it on the desk because it gives better cooling capabilities, and it's a bit more comfortable as well. The benefit of the M17 over the M15 is you have a larger keyboard setup. It's less compact. You've got access to more keys there. It's comfortable to use. Really good layout to it. I haven't got any gripes with this. I really enjoyed using that keyboard. One downside I did find is that sometimes it doesn't register all the key presses, so if you're doing a multitude of key presses at once, it struggles a little bit. So I was doing some gameplay with Doom Eternal on it, trying to strafe, jump and take screenshots all at the same time, and I had a bit of a problem with the keys not registering the presses. That was a multitude of presses that most people probably wouldn't do though, and it's a minor problem with it. Otherwise, design wise, it's very nice. As I said, the Alienware logo on the back, for example, is RGB backlit. The Alienware logo, the lighting around the venting and the keyboard are all individually customizable within the software, and I'll show you that a bit later on. And it's per key illumination, as I said, so you can tweak it. Now here we can see I've put it under a bit of pressure in various different ways, and I'll talk to you about that. Also including 3D Mark benchmarking in the description, so links to that if you want to see it in action, and I'll show you some benchmarking a bit later on. Here I am playing Cuisine Royale, streaming on a Friday and Saturday night, and plug the laptop into a 32-inch 1440p monitor. I've got OBS Streamlabs running on that, Chrome with the live chat so I can see that going on. Obviously got a stream cam plugged into it as well. On the left hand side you can see it's plugged into Ethernet, so I get a steady connection. I found with this setup the screen didn't give as much in terms of the frame rates. I found usually that Cuisine Royale gets in the high 90s or over 100 just about on this laptop. When it's plugged in and doing this, it then got around 60 or lower. Not terribly lower, but it was a bit strange. But then I am streaming with Streamlabs OBS, recording with NVIDIA Shadowplay, DVRing, have Chrome open, putting out to an external screen, asking quite a lot from the laptop, and it still stood up well. For a slightly different demonstration, here playing Doom Eternal, and you can see the FPS counter in the top corner. It was hitting the high hundreds regularly. This is maxed out on the Ultra Nightmare graphics settings as well. It performed really well in this area, getting loads and loads of frames. Now this is where it's a bit odd, because obviously this is a 60 Hz screen, so you're not making the most of that frame rate, which is a bit odd. You can get a 144 Hz screen, but there's no 4K screen version, and you can't go higher than 144 Hz, which seems a bit odd, especially when the M15 goes up to 240 Hz as a potential option. So this screen is only 1080p and not as potentially responsive as the one on the Alienware M15, and considering there are other laptops out at the moment with as much as 300 Hz refresh rate, it is a bit of a strange one. However, I did enjoy using it. It looks brilliant, as you can see. It's hard to do it justice here, but it was really polished. The game is really well made anyway, but it ran really smoothly. It looked great. Well, another thing of note is that the speakers are pretty decent as well. They could do a good job in terms of audio. As I said already, the fans and cooling system is also very good. I've not found a problem with the fans being too obnoxious and overly loud, and the speakers did a good job of blocking them out. With some of the other gaming laptops that I've tested, I've found that the fans on them were too loud when they were under pressure like this, playing a modern game at high visual settings, and that they would get really obnoxiously loud and end up having to wear a headset within a short space of time. I actually found the M17 didn't have that problem. It ran well, it performed well, it counterbalanced the need for performance and obviously cooling, and it did a good job of it, and I could run without any issue. Here you can see a POV view, and you just see a better view of what the screen looks like and the viewing angles on it. Actually, you see obviously a comparison from the side to the front. It performs really well. It's a very nice laptop. It is very expensive though. I do feel like some of the specs on this model, as I said, are a bit lackluster. Obviously the RTX 2080 is pretty decent. That's a good specification, and the fact that you can do so many things on it at once, like recording, streaming, just gaming gloriously. And it obviously has Ethernet and multiple ports on it as well. It also has DisplayPort Mini and HDMI output, so you can output to multiple screens. And I used it to play on the Oculus Rift S, because I wanted to test that out, and the HTC Vive Cosmos as well. So I was actually testing out 2 VR headsets while I was using it, and I was reviewing Half-Life Alyx and playing some other games, testing out the Vive Cosmos and seeing if this could stand up to it, and I actually managed to do that without any problems as well. So if you want a laptop that can do VR, then this is certainly well worth considering. It's a good option for that. Ran some benchmark tests. As I said, I have the 3D Mark benchmarking results in the description if you want to check them out. Here using Far Cry New Dawn. Some games I found was a bit hit and miss. Doom performed really well in terms of FPS and the performance of it. Far Cry was below 100 FPS. It was in the top 70s, I believe, when you see from this benchmark, so it's not quite as good. Cuisine also didn't do as well as it normally would on my desktop machine. However, it is a portable laptop, it is a thin laptop, and it's to be expected it wouldn't be quite as good as a desktop machine, so it does well enough, I think, and it also very good in terms of the visuals and a smooth experience. Didn't have any particular problems with it in that regard. Generally speaking, based on what I've seen, I would probably choose the M15 over the M17, just in terms of the screen visuals. I was really blown away by the M15's 4K screen and the HDR visuals on it. However, the M17 is certainly a nice machine, especially with that 17.3 inch display. It gives you a bit more real estate to play around with and you're not staring at a tiny screen. Now, diving into the Alienware Command Center software, you have various customization options here. You can change things like the settings, the power and the performance, and the audio, set up themes for various games and stuff like that. One thing I will note is the battery life is a bit lackluster on this machine. I only managed to get around 2 hours of battery life out of it, and that's with the RGB lighting turned off and the screen brightness down as well. And gaming performance, it wouldn't even really run particularly with the battery. They mostly always need on power for these things anyway. Here you can see within the Command Center software you can adjust the keys on a per key basis. You can also select lighting in sections. So you can see at the top there's the option for WASD, QWERTY, the numpads, the function keys, and all sorts, and you can customize them individually. It is a bit of a faff clicking in and out of each one, but it is possible to do, so you can customize the lighting in a nice way. And the lighting isn't too bad. Honestly, it's a laptop, so it's not massively in your face. On the rear, as I said before, you can adjust the lighting on the Alienware logo and the lighting around the rear venting system as well. You can tweak that again. You can do those separately, so you can separate the lighting for all three, so you get plenty of different options there. And it's nice to be able to customize that, turn it off, so you can take it into the office, for example, or into school or wherever, and not have people recognize you as a gamer, and just have something that's a bit more understated. Generally, the experience with the Alienware M17 has been a good one, and it is an enjoyable laptop with some very nice features. If you're willing to pay extra for the more expensive models with the better specs, then I'd recommend doing that. There's nothing wrong with this spec necessarily. However, the small drive storage is going to be potentially an issue in the future, so it's worth considering getting larger storage there. 2080 is certainly a good GPU. CPU did a good job of running as well. 16 gigabytes of RAM is good enough for most people, so generally otherwise it's cool. However, I also consider the 144Hz screen and the Tobii eye tracking is also useful. Hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting or hilarious. Be sure to subscribe and check out these other videos, as well as taking a look in the description for links and information you might find useful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything you'd like to see extra about this, and have a great life.